This is the Geoffrey and Richie Show. All sports, all talk.
Hello there, and welcome to the Geoffrey and Richie Sports Show. I am Richie Benno, and I'd like to introduce my colleague, Geoffrey Boycott. Good morning, Geoffrey.
Morning, Richie. Morning, everybody.
How are you?
Oh, that almost made me laugh. You are too enthusiastic for my liking. That's your problem. You can always guarantee
one of many.
You can always guarantee I'll be downbeat as much as you're upbeat.
You are the yang to my yin.
That's the way it works here. So on that basis, how am I? I'm largely indifferent to things at the moment.
You're always indifferent to things.
Yeah, I know. I have realised that my face largely remains very similar in terms of my expressions, regardless of whether I'm happy or sad.
Well, as a podcast, I'm sure the listeners
they
will be
don't
pleased
care.
to hear that.
They don't care. But I think that is the truth. That's how I roll.
Excellent.
Other than that, I'm alright.
just next week, if
how
you
are you
just
doing?
say, yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Did you watch the England game? Now, when I say England game, I mean the England football match, because there's a
lot of England games going on.
Oh, absolutely. Start with the footy, though.
Yes, I did see the England game.
Egypt, a good side.
They were in the first half and then seemed to falter somewhat. I don't know whether that was more down to the fact that England's personnel changed or what. But yeah, Egypt looked good in the first half, and I was beginning to think, are we gonna struggle here and lose this game? But once we got the equaliser, I mean, to be fair, we should have scored a couple in the first half. Lampard had a Mr. gilt-edged chance.
Defoe was through as well when he was half tugged back and then shot.
Yeah,
which was straight at the keeper.
Yeah, but I thought the players that came on at half time pretty much all did themselves the world of good in terms of being in Capello's thoughts. So fair play to them, and it was a decent result in the end. Obviously, Crouch did the business, as he can do, and does sometimes.
A lot of the time.
Well, for England, yeah, certainly. And Wright Phillips got a rather fortunate goal, but no, it was decent enough. Interesting, the John Terry boo issue. What do you make of that?
Well, I think he was always going to get a bit of a mixed reception. I think he won them over quite well, in fairness. Certainly in the second half, there wasn't as much booing as when it started out. I'm largely indifferent to it, I have to say. It's probably going to run on for a while until there's some other story and they'll take over and there's no doubt it'll be forgotten about. If we're in the quarterfinals, semi-finals, there's no way any England fan in South Africa is going to be booing John Terry whenever he touches the ball.
Well, it seemed, to be honest, as the game went on, John Terry kind of began to win the crowd over.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
If anything, by the end of it, the majority of the crowd were trying to cheer to silence the booing. And I think he had a decent enough game. I know he slipped on that one occasion, but it wasn't quite as bad as Upson slipped. So
no.
I think he did all right. I mean, John Terry is never going to be one of the sort of favourite sons of football, but nonetheless, you can't deny he's a decent player.
No, absolutely not. And he's going to be first choice. Assuming he stays fit, there's no doubt about that. I thought it was interesting. So coming back to you mentioned Wright Phillips. I mean, he certainly did himself the power of good. Obviously, Walcott started, and
apart from that one run where he pulled it back for Lampard, he didn't really do anything else, did he?
He didn't. I mean, in fairness to him, he hasn't really had a run of games, and I think he was quite fortunate to get the start. I think Capello. I thought it was interesting that he started Walcott ahead of Wright Phillips. I read it that I'm seeing what Walcott's got to offer me at the moment. I know what Wright Phillips can do. I'm sure Wright Phillips will be on the plane to South Africa, and rightly so. And his second half performance justified it even more. But he's definitely going. I don't think Walcott is. I really don't. And we know what he can do when he's on form and on fire and fit. But he hasn't been any of those three things this season. I just don't think he's got enough time. To force his way into the squad.
Well, I was texting our old buddy Chris Hanlon during the game yesterday.
Cricket Chris.
Indeed, and he was basically saying that in his view, Walcott would be excellent if it was just a running race, but as soon as the football's involved, he seems to get confused.
Yeah, I almost think he looked a bit, and I made the point in commentary, he looked a bit like he was trying to prove a point and knocking it past his man. He did it a couple of times where he just knocked it past and tried to out-sprint him. And Wright Phillips is not going to do that. Lennon is not going to do that. Yeah, they've both got pace and abundance, but there is no way on earth that Walcott is ahead of Lennon when he's fit, Wright Phillips, and Bex as well. I just can't see him going. And you're right, he is insanely fast, but Lennon and Wright Phillips aren't slouches if you want pace on the right hand side. Speaking of right hand side, I mean, the issue I've got to raise is, I know obviously I've been quite critical of Glenn Johnson in the England squad, coming forward, defender and everything else. But when we are coming forward, Wes Brown, to me, he is not. He really isn't comfortable with it, and it's almost like, well, do I want a defensive right back, in which case Brown is your man, or do I want someone who's maybe not as good defensively but good going forward, which is Johnson? I've been quite critical of Johnson, and stand by that. But equally, having said that, Brown he just didn't look comfortable coming forward. I don't know, where do you stand on that one?
Well, for me, when it comes to fullbacks, I know that a lot of people would rather they be defenders first and then obviously show any kind of attacking flair second. But I think that you need a balance, and ultimately you've got the two centre halves who are stoppers effectively, and then I firmly believe that the two fullbacks should offer something going forward. Wes Brown doesn't, Glenn Johnson does, and Glenn Johnson does do a half decent job defensively.
He's got to be back soon, isn't he?
Yeah, I think in the next week or so he's due back. I'm certain he's rejoined full training. And I mean, Ashley Cole is he's decent defensively, but he also offers a lot going forward. So I thought Baines did okay yesterday.
I did. He didn't look overall at all. In fairness,
didn't do himself any harm anyway.
Doesn't he look like Gary Neville?
Lucky guy. Lucky guy. I hadn't really thought of that, but I suppose. Yeah, I mean, he's not a particularly handsome chap, I suppose you could argue. I'm
not commenting on his looks per se in terms of a judgment call. I'm just saying that he reminded me of a left-footed Gary Neville. But yeah, there we go. So I mean, I agree with you entirely. Decent performance. What I did like as well was that we had problems at half time. We were being outplayed, even though we did create a couple of chances, and it was good to see changes made and have a positive effect, not only in the outcome of the game, but even had we'd not have taken the chances, we still would have played much better in the second half, and that would have been a positive in itself, even if we'd have gone. No one wants to lose, obviously, but I just think the second half performance and the way that we changed it at half time was just a good sign, and it's very difficult not to be quite positive going into the tournament. We're not going to play again for whatever it is, 12 weeks, and yeah, it's
good times.
It really is good times. You're absolutely right.
Geoffrey and Richie.
If you'd like to download the full version of this edition of the Geoffrey and Richie Sports Show, you can find us on iTunes. We are the Geoffrey and Richie Sports Show. You can email us. Our email address is geoffreyandrichie@hotmail.co.uk. You can check out our blog. That's www.geoffreyandrichie.libsyn.com. You can find us on Facebook. We're also on Twitter too. The username is GNR_podcast. That's GNR_podcast.
This is the Geoffrey and Richie Show. All sports, all talk.